always wanted to be a master in something, and I can never trust myself to like call myself a master. It's like I'm not somebody who would ever like identify as a master of anything, but I feel like when a university, when some kind of like higher power gives me a piece of paper that says I'm a master, then I can kind of like can say I'm a master. These are all photographs I made with a digital camera. I would say they all mean the same thing, but that thing isn't any one thing. As a general rule of thumb, part of what makes photography interesting a lot of the time is the uncertainty, is like, why was that positioned there? Did I position there? Is that the photographer in the background? There are a lot of unanswered questions. And the minute you start answering those questions, you start resolving the thing, and that can kill it.
Sight Unseen behind me was developed as a backdrop for a performance, which then later got edited out because the backdrop was performing on its own in a sufficient manner to hold the piece. In the performance, I've been working on how to sort of embody discomforts by physically being there and performing it. It's really hard for people to ignore that. Like, you can't really remove yourself from it in the same way that you can from an art piece that you're viewing, where you're like, oh, if that's overwhelming to me, I can just look away. But you're actually witnessing, it's a person inside that costume, even though there's no face.
All of my work is based on personal stories from the past, from my childhood. The performance is about when I was a child, so I was bullied in the school of music. So some kids invited me to go into this dark room. So I got in and then they locked me. So I stayed there like for 2 hours, banging the doors until finally a professor came by and he opened the door for me and let me out. This is Waters of 1983. It's also a personal narrative. My brother, when he fell in a ditch, so the struggle, when I was a kid, I was 4 back then, and I had to run after him so he wouldn't drown. You'll hear the sound like every 20 minutes of voices of children drowning.
This particular show for thesis is derived from escape to the beach, to have daydreams. I like to work with black mountain clay a lot, which just has a dark, rich finish when fired, and then the glaze has a good contrast with it because the glaze can be a little lighter, and then you have the dark and light. And this was a sculpting clay that's a lighter body. When pit fired, it's called painting with flame, and there was a lot of natural colors that came out from the fire itself. They're not glazed. I don't really care to send a message other than contemplate on my work. What's your take on it? What do you see in it? The whole experience was yin and yang. There's a little bit of pro and con to everything. So I think I took the silver lining in what I experienced and made the best positive outcome for myself.
This is my MFA final thesis exhibition. Talk about my hometown China, one-child policy. I created a pop-up store filled with my unfulfilled desired object, the toys. I designed the stuff, the toys here, shipped the blueprints to China, found a manufacturer, they made the toys for me, then I draw the eyes, like a facial expression at the end, and design the logo in China and put them on my shirts, merchandise. The art market in China is a little bit different. I'm not sure how to fit in, and I want to keep going, do my art. So it's a little bit tough for me. Kind of worry about my future. What should I do to fit in Chinese art market, art society?
I'm a sculptor and just created pieces that you could either get into or you could get close and smell them or touch them. Well, my work is centered around permanence versus kind of change, and how we are used to, as people, trying to always get stability and permanence, and yet all of our lives, everything's changing all the time, even on a cellular level. So I chose to make work that kind of emulates this in-between where things are always changing, and I used glycerin soap and wooden furniture to cast those two together. I worked really, really hard. This was not an easy program. I will miss having this gorgeous studio, and I will, more than the studio, I will miss the grads and the instructors here. But I know there's good things on the other side, so I'm really excited.